Good morning, everyone. So today, my name is Farhan, and today we're joined by Zainab, and we're going to be having a discussion on professional females and their family support systems. So starting off, can you briefly introduce yourself and share how you got started as a social media influencer?
My name is Sukhera, and I started this account around a month ago. I wanted to become an influencer ever since I was a little kid. It was when I was little, ever since I was a kid, I really loved shopping, and it was around 7, 8 summers ago when I was shopping at Lady Club with my mom, and they had this poster up for hiring kids for their next campaigns. And at that time, social media wasn't really a big of a thing around in 2014 and 15. So whenever they needed anyone, they used to have these posters up in the early 2010s to hire people for it. So I was begging my mom that entire summer to let me do it. And after that, I feel like a part of me always wanted to do it. And eventually, I started convincing my parents about a couple of years ago when college started. And today, I'm sitting here, and in my first month of launching this account, I gained 15,000 followers, which has been amazing progress. And yeah.
First of all, congratulations on your success. And while we're on that, I would like to ask, how did your family initially react when you expressed your interest in social media
My
influencer?
mom always knew that I wanted to be a big name. I always wanted to make a name for myself in this industry. But my dad didn't know up until college started, because usse pehle she used to think कि मतलब maybe she's a kid and eventually she's gonna get over it. But then she saw that I'm not getting over it, and eventually when college started, I first started talking to my parents about it, and it was first year inter ka mera pehla saal tha when I first initially introduced the idea to my parents, and it took them a couple of years of observing. The one thing that my parents started doing was following a lot of influencers and seeing what they were doing and what their line of work exactly was. Because I feel like our parents, coming from the generation that they belong to, social media wasn't really a thing back like 30 years ago or 20 years ago. So I feel like the best thing that they did was to educate themselves on what it is really about. And then a couple of years later, once they've observed some people, they started following some influencers consistently on a daily basis just to see what it was really about. And I feel like that helped me a lot in my case, because I feel like instead of just saying a no directly, no, you just cannot do this, they educated themselves and started supporting me on it eventually.
Have you faced any challenges though?
This was the biggest challenge that I had to go through, was because my mom was still pretty okay with it, but my dad still had some hesitation towards letting me do it, because like we live in a society where there's still some stigma behind women being in a public frame in front of people's eyes. So I feel like eventually my parents coming around it was the biggest challenge that I had to go through, because past that, because I was ready for this ever since I was a kid to do it. So when I started it, I didn't really feel like anything was going to affect me on my way towards success.
Have you encountered any resistance or skepticism from family members regarding your career choice?
I feel like apart from my parents, I didn't really take anyone seriously what anyone had to say about it, because I know there has been some skepticism behind my back, because I could feel it sometimes when people ask me. The first thing I did was the basic thing that everyone does, just take your family out of your account, because I feel like when I had to move in front of the public eye, I didn't want people that I know would be in my home and would be spending a lot of time with me to be saying things that would eventually affect me right in the beginning. Once I was like, I'm settled into it and I get the hang of it, then I can easily share it with all of the family members that I have. Abhi tak to it's limited to just a certain amount of people, because I certainly do feel like it's very much easier for me to present myself in front of strangers, because it doesn't really matter if they're giving me any criticism, because I don't really take it in a negative way. I do. One of the best things about myself that I like a lot is that criticism doesn't really affect me in a negative way. I'm a very optimistic person. So even if I do feel like some people are being really critical about some things at certain points, I take it as constructive criticism. Because ever since this account started, up until that point to a month later till now, I've improved so massively. I've even gotten some texts from huge celebrities, I'm not gonna name them, but they have millions of followers. So I feel like it was a great step and they really appreciated my content, which meant a lot for me as a growing small influencer because my numbers are just consistently growing up, but the exposure that I've got from many big names has been a huge boost for me in my confidence and in my line of work as well.
That's great. So, how do you address the nuanced challenges faced by those who may not have the traditional family support system, as in single mothers or women from marginalized communities?
So, my mom was a single mother for the longest time. So, I do know the entire stigma around a single mom that comes in our society. And I feel like it has a really negative impact on the women's mental health. Because there are so many questions that people raise, and eventually there are so many struggles that they have to go through. Because किसी भी साइड पर ना कोई खुश नहीं होता कि like even if you're a single mother nobody's happy, even if you get married again nobody's happy, people are going to talk either way. So I feel like that was the first problem that arises with women, because nobody's gonna talk about a man if he gets married again, but everyone points fingers at women if they choose to have a better decision for their lives ahead. So I feel like there needs to be a huge support system that needs to be provided to all the women who are working alone out here, because I don't feel like we have enough daycares for children to be taken care of for all the single mothers who are working out there. We don't have enough help and education to for them, because I feel like when a woman gets married, and agar culturally dekha jaye to yahan pe everyone expects the man to be the caretaker and provide for his family financially. So in case something happens, it could be a death or it could be just like things not working out. So in that case I feel like women should have a support system कि जैसे मतलब there aren't many resources to help women. Okay, if a woman is going to work, ठीक है, so she could have flexible hours instead of a consistent 9 to 5. There could be flexible hours. क्योंकि if you're raising your children, you're responsible for raising your children as well as you're responsible for moving along with your career as well. तो जब इतनी progress आपको एक साथ करनी होती है, तो I feel like कि if there were resources to help you out with it, it would be much easier for women to make progress in the field that they're working in. क्योंकि बहुत ज़्यादा दफ़ा ऐसा होता है कि a woman cannot go to work, या वो कोई काम जो वो करना चाहती है, progress. There are so many women that I've met who were much older than me who wanted to pursue their studies ahead, but because they had children, they could not do it. And some of them even have husbands, ठीक है, तो like people are just not willing to help out women in our society क्योंकि they feel like कि बस उनकी जिम्मेदारी है ये सारा कुछ करना है. It is, ठीक है, there are certain responsibilities that, लेकिन this responsibilities are divided between the man and the woman, ठीक है. If he's supposed to be the provider, then a woman is supposed to, like, even along with raising children, a woman is also can also choose to work as well. Even if we come down to the depths of our society, just in which we can see how much society there are two norms that go on here. One are the societal norms on one hand, and on the other hand we have cultural norms. Okay, so I feel like a lot of the cultural and societal norms have been in the subcontinent from a really long time, like, and a lot of them are not related to our religion. I feel like there needs to be a stable difference between them because it's just like a lot of things are not part of our religion, but they're part of our society. I feel like if those things were differentiated and people were educated about it, it would be much easier for women to be in a working space and to have all the opportunities.
So this question is a bit similar to the previous one, but I'd still like to get your answer on this. So in your opinion, what systemic changes or societal shifts do you believe are necessary to ensure that all females, regardless of their support systems, have equal opportunities to pursue their professional aspirations in Pakistan?
I feel like our society really needs to differentiate between the societal norms versus what our religion tells us. Because I feel like the biggest issue that women are facing right now, or people in general are facing right now, are that people fail to establish the difference between what our religion is teaching us and what the society is saying to us. I feel like our society was established way before Pakistan even became an Islamic state, and that sort of still carries on. There are so many things that are not part of our religion, but they're still a part of our society because people believe that they're part of our religion as well. I feel like if people were educated enough to have those differences figured out, I feel like there's a lot of misguidance on by a lot of people here as well. Because I feel like if people were educated the right way about things, and if they were told that yes, women can have their opportunities and they could work as well, though I feel like a lot of the things would change eventually over time. Even if we look at currently the way economically things are going, inflation is at highest peak that it has ever been ever since this country has been created. So I feel like even one person earning in a household is not enough. If both of the people have opportunities to work, it would be much easier for a household to be in a much more comfortable and living with a much more comfortable income. Systemic changes baat hai. I feel like the systemic changes that are needed to be implemented should be from our government in supporting women, because again, let's come to the first point that women are the ones that are responsible for mainly their children. So I feel like if a lot of daycares and help centers for women were established, I feel like it would make things a lot easier for them, because if they knew that, and if flexible work hours were given to them as well, okay, they could take breaks in between. We could have like you have to complete these working hours in a week, and if there were any paid leaves that they could have, because I feel like there are a lot of opportunities that are taken away from women, and I feel like there's also one really stigmatic thing about a woman. Whenever I've heard it from a multiple of my family members who graduated recently in the last couple of years, that whenever they felt like whenever they were going at a multinational company's interview here in Pakistan, there was this thing that people would, even though they were better than a lot of their male co-workers, they could not have the same opportunities to grow, because a lot of the times I feel like people had this misconception after they got married. It wasn't before they got married, it was after they got married. Anytime if a woman gets pregnant, so she's gonna have to quit, she's gonna go on maternity leaves, it's gonna cause some loss of work, and that becomes a really huge reason why they, even if a woman is doing great in her field of work, they don't let her move forward in it. So I feel like a lot of societal changes are needed and people need to be educated about it. I feel like it would make a huge difference for everyone. And if we talk about the ratios, though, more than around, I guess, a huge number of our population is women. So if we started, and 70% of our, only 30% of women in urban areas are educated. So I feel like if those ratios were changed and the rest of the 70% of women also got opportunities to be educated and to work in different fields as well, our country would make a lot of economic progress, because only one part of our country is working towards the economic progress. If both of the parts were working equally, I feel like it would make a huge difference in the progress of our country over time.
Okay, so another question I wanted to ask you is, what is your stance on women who end up putting an infinite pause on their professional careers after marriage?
I feel like there are two scenarios that go with this case. On one hand, there are the women who leave their jobs on their own will, and on the other hand, there are women who do not want to leave it but are forced to leave it. I feel like there's a huge difference between it. For the ones who make the choice for themselves, I feel like every person should have a choice. If every woman should have a choice if she wants to work or not. Okay, I feel like a lot of misconceptions have increased over time, in which people think that recently there's I've seen this thing on the internet that a few years ago people were being really progressive, and since everyone was going on towards focusing on women's rights, educating people about it, and then there's suddenly started coming a rise between a lot of mom influencers all over the world. So I feel, after that I started noticing that people were like that now a couple of years back all the women wanted freedom and now all of them are choosing to be housewives. I feel like a lot of the misconceptions are within people's mindsets, because I feel like the thing that women wanted was to have equal opportunities, the opportunities and the choices to do what they want. Even if a woman puts an infinite pause to her career, that is her choice, but she should not be forced to do it. If her family cannot, the only cases that I've seen in which people put, most of the cases that I've seen in which there's an infinite pause to their career has been due to a pressure from their families, like familiar pressures. I feel like if that was taken out of the way, it would make a lot of progress in someone's personal life as well as our country economically.
So when it comes to unconventional professional careers like social media influencing, it is looked down upon by families if their children start pursuing that. So like what do you think about that?
I feel like a lot of the stigma that comes around social media basically generated from a lot of misconceptions that come around it and not being educated enough about social media. I feel like people focus on the negative parts of it way too much rather than the positive side of it. I do agree that there is a huge negativity in it as well, but there's an entirely opposite side of it as well. When you go into the non-conventional, like for me, I went into an unconventional choice of career in which I don't feel like a lot of people do it. I feel like only like a very small number of women here are pursuing this. Like, and I do like recently I've seen a lot of growth in it, and I do feel really happy that people are finally. Getting that independence and the choice to pursue the career that they want. So there are many different, you can say, divisions. Even in a certain city, there are different areas in which people think entirely differently. I feel like it really depends upon how you've raised, and I feel like the stigma doesn't really bother you, or the part where people look down upon you doesn't really matter if you have a strong support system at your back. I feel like a lot of the people in my own extended family would really disagree with what I'm doing, but my parents and my close family being really supportive of it didn't really bother me after it if other people were gonna look down upon it, because if I have my parents at my back, I feel like it played a huge pivotal role in the way that I have this confidence and have a comfort level in pursuing this career. So I feel like at the end of the day, it's always your family that can make the greatest changes for you. So I feel like all the changes that are supposed to be made in a woman's life and for her career, everything starts at home. Your parents are going to raise you, and if your parents are going to raise you to be a strong independent woman, then whatever the society thinks or says about you isn't really going to affect you in any way, because again, your support system is all that you're going to need.
Moving to the last question, what advice would you like to give from your personal experience to aspiring female professionals who want to follow your path? Basically.
I feel like the number one step that you have to take is a lot of convincing, and I feel like it works over time. There are a couple of ways to deal with a situation like this. Some parents are going to be totally okay with it. Some parents take more time to accept it. I feel like if you give exposure to your parents, because I feel like that's the first thing that you need to your parents, or if you're older and in a different stage of life, to your husband or anyone who is relevant towards this decision for you. I feel like if you educate them about it and tell them the details of what you want to do, because I feel like the person who wants to pursue a certain career knows the most about it. So other people are not going to be as aware of it as you would be. So if you give them that awareness, eventually over time, I feel like you can really get support on your side. Because for me, when my parents started observing a lot of influencers and what they were doing, when a couple years ago I first introduced the idea to them, they were like, no, you're never showing your face publicly on social media. And now they're like, no, it's an amazing thing that you're doing. And every day whenever I tell them that now I'm like making this progress, they're insanely proud of me. So I feel like a lot of other people, and a lot of the people that I used to follow, the people that I wanted to follow, the paths that I wanted to follow, the people that I had a lot of inspiration from. I feel like everyone has a different way of being on social media. Everyone has their own personal creativity. Everyone has different opinions. Everyone has a different style of influencing. There are multiple ways to do it. Everyone chooses a different path. So the path that I wanted to take and the path that you want to take, if you are constantly focused on it and if you pray for it and work for it, then there's no way that you're not going to be successful at it. I've really worked on my creativity skills over time. I really started to open up my mind towards more creative ideas. Even before I started this account, I was working on it on my private account as if that was the account that I was going to become an influencer on, because I feel like if you have a certain practice at it and if you get the hang of it, then once you do move on to the next step, it's really easy for you to make that transition, because I feel like it would be really tough from being a person who has this tiny circle in their own tiny life to being this person who is in front of a lot of eyes. Thousands of people is not a small number. So being in front of so many people takes a lot of confidence. I feel like apart from the societal norms of it all, the personal conflicts that a person has with it are their own insecurities towards it. I feel like if you build your confidence and you make sure to tell yourself and to constantly believe in yourself that you are the best at what you do, eventually you are going to actually be the best at what you do.
Exactly.
Because once you're into it, it's not just that you're going to be the only person who's going to be doing this. There are going to be thousands of other people that you're going to see every other day, and there's always going to be someone prettier, there's always going to be someone better. You cannot put yourself in that comparison. This would be my first advice that I would give to all the girls out there, that never ever put yourself in comparison of anyone. You are the best at what you do, you are one of a kind, and you're beautiful in your own way. So if you embrace that beauty from within yourself, I feel like when you have that confidence and when you embrace yourself, nothing and nobody can break you down. No criticism on the internet, no negativity from people is ever going to get to you as long as you believe in yourself, which is the most important part of doing all of this. It doesn't really matter if you're doing social media or if you're generally working in a corporate place as well. As long as you believe in yourself, there's nothing and nobody that is ever going to bring you down.
So thank you for joining me for this interview. Congratulations.
Thank you for having me.
Congratulations on your success. I'm really proud of you for making this happen for you.